Okay. I am not muted. Oh, I guess because I'm the host, I have the power. All right. I guess we can start to let folks in. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the community information session for the East Keith Road Supportive Housing Project in the District of North Vancouver. My name is Kirsty, and I will be your facilitator for today's session. So welcome, everyone. As we begin, we acknowledge with gratitude that the area we are discussing today is in the unceded and traditional territory of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam peoples. It is a pleasure for us to be here to provide you with important information about this project, to hear your comments, and to provide answers to your questions. So we thank you for taking the time to join us. I'm now happy to introduce presenters representing the partners involved in this project who are with us today. I will ask each of them to unmute their mic and say hello so that anybody who has chosen speaker view can put a face to a name. First of all, we have Vanessa Wong from BC Housing. Vanessa, go ahead.
Hey everyone, this is Vanessa. I'm with BC Housing.
And we also have with us today Will Valenciano, Senior Manager, Coordinated Access and Assessment. Will, you want to go ahead and say hi?
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be with everyone tonight. I'm with operations with BC Housing.
Great. And we also have from the District of North Vancouver, Tamsin Guppy, Planner.
Hello. Yes, I'm Tamsin Guppy, Planner with the district, and happy to be here to provide some information and answer questions as the evening unfolds.
Also going to introduce Barbara Lawson, Director of Housing and Operations and Programs from Luma Native Housing Society.
Hello, I'm Barbara Lawson-Swain, and I'm from, as they said, the Luma Native Housing Society, and I'm here to answer your questions and enjoy the presentation as well. Thank you.
And we have David McQuarrie, Manager, Mental Health and Substance Use, North Shore for Vancouver Coastal Health.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for attending this event. We look forward to interacting with you throughout this seminar. I am a manager with mental health and substance abuse with the North Shore of Vancouver Coastal Health. So thanks for coming.
We're also fortunate to have a few other representatives here to help us answer questions. We have Tina Atba from Community Planning at the District of North Vancouver, Ira Ronas from Vancouver Coastal Health, and we have Jennifer Giesbrich from BC Housing, who is our meeting host this evening and providing technical support behind the scenes for us. We're going to start this session by going over our guiding principles for the time we have together tonight to ensure that we have a successful session. I'd like to draw your attention to the slide currently displayed. We commit to come together in the spirit of community, to share information openly and transparently, and to work to balance time for sharing information and answering questions. We ask that all participants in this evening's session use respectful people-first language. For example, you will hear us refer to people experiencing homelessness as an example, to ask brief, genuine questions and allow the space for answers. And lastly, to please consider that there may be people joining us this evening who are experiencing or have experienced homelessness, and we want to be mindful of everyone's lived experience on this call this evening. So just a little bit more housekeeping before we start our main presentation. You are all currently in listen-only mode. When the time comes for discussion, our team will mute and unmute participants. You can use the chat function to communicate with myself or with Jennifer, the meeting host, but you will not be able to communicate with the rest of the participants via chat. During the discussion, we encourage people to raise their hands using the toolbar to request to ask a question. Alternately, you can also type your questions into the Zoom chat window at any time, and we will read those aloud when we get to the discussion portion of the session. I would like to note that this session is being recorded this evening so that it can be shared online, but only the presentation section will be displayed to respect people's privacy, so the Q&A will not be played. If you're having technical difficulties during this session, please use the contact information on your screen to contact our team, and they will do their best to help you. And if you need to phone into the session rather than being online, there's also that option listed here on that slide. So that brings us to our agenda for today. To start, we will have an overview on homelessness and housing in the District of North Vancouver. Then we will provide information about the East Keith Road Supportive Housing Project itself. We'll provide some details about what supportive housing is and also about complex care housing, which makes up a component of this project. And we will work to keep things moving and reserve approximately 1 hour at the end of the presentation for questions and discussion. Okay, so I will ask our first presenter, Tamsin, to unmute and to take it away.
Thank you, Kirsty, and welcome once again. So I want to take just a couple minutes to talk about the district's role here and also introduce you to what we think is a very positive project for the District of North Vancouver. So first of all, why are we interested in this? Well, the district has a responsibility under provincial legislation to look at what types of housing our residents need. And while many residents are well served by single-family homes and strata apartments, unfortunately, not all of us can afford those. And so we have a whole continuum of housing, and that's outlined in policies like our rental and affordable housing strategy and our targeted action plan. And among those are the use of district lands to address key issues like homelessness. So on the North Shore, the homeless count in 2023 showed that there were 168 people who were homeless here on the North Shore. And we know that that number underrepresents the true problem. Where are the homeless? Well, they're in our neighborhoods. And in particular in this neighborhood, you'll see them living in tents along the creek and in the bushes and in the forest. But you'll also see them, and perhaps more discreetly, living out of their cars, because they're people, everybody gets to this stage following a different path, but they're people where all it takes is losing your job and being unable to make your rent. And suddenly you find yourself in a very difficult position. And then once you become homeless, think about what that means. You lack safety, you lack a washroom, you lack warmth, you lack protection from the elements. And so for us at the district, we know, and we've studied this, we know that to improve everybody's quality of life in our community, we need to find homes for these people. We need to get them out of our parks and into safe and secure housing. So this proposal is about providing 65 homes in an apartment building that will have 24/7 support services. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the site, as many people on this call will know, is at Mountain and East Keith Roads. And I'm also just changing my slide so I can read my notes. There we go. The district looked for a site that was suitable for apartment housing and met BC Housing and Vancouver Coastal Health's criteria. And that includes basic things like being close to transit and close to services. And again, as I said, being suitable for housing. We did undertake a review to ensure that it was also a site that was good for development. And that looked at doing a preliminary environmental assessment, a review of infrastructure, a review of traffic and access, and so on. If this project moves forward, the first step is to rezone the site. And then working with BC Housing, they will continue their work on designs, and Vanessa will tell us more about that shortly. And those designs will be shared with the public once they have got to a point where there's something to really look at. And then next slide, please. And then just thinking about the process a little bit. So we're in this yellow highlighted section where we're at the kind of public input and question and answer stage of the process. This is a project that the district is behind and is interested in supporting, but it still has to go through a proper process with council. Council has to give the bylaw due process, which means that we have introduced the bylaw and it will be going to public hearing on November 21st. If you want to provide comments directly to council, you can do so by emailing at the district, and that's at input@dnv.org. And we can provide that to you, or you can email me and I can forward your comments on. Next steps, as mentioned, we go through the rezoning process. If that's successful, the design process continues, becomes more detailed. We go through the development permit, building permit, and then construction. With the we're hoping that this project will be opening in 2026 because, again, it is a much needed project to provide homes for the homeless. And now I'll turn it over to Vanessa with BC Housing.
Hi, everyone. So in tandem with the rezoning process, we have retained an architect who is developing a schematic design for the site. So what this means is they're assessing the site, reviewing the topography to help determine the ideal location for the building if we are successful in our rezoning. We're also in the process of collecting information about the site to understand its constraints. So this includes land surveyors and groundwater monitoring over the wet season, the winter season. We have hired an Indigenous consultant who will be connecting with the First Nation communities to share our plans for the site. Next slide. So the image, there's two images on this slide. The image on the left is the aerial view of the site. The site is outlined in the dashed red line. We are currently exploring different test fits for this site. So the image on the right is one option we are considering. The image shows the building is rotated to align with the northwest property line and the topography. The building itself is the bold black line. The darker gray area is the proposed parking and road access to the site. The turquoise colored areas are the homes. The light pink sections are the common hallways, and the darker pink rectangles represent the stairwells and the elevator. The building entrance and lobby are proposed to be located on East Keith Road. The building would be staffed 24/7. There would be a commercial kitchen providing meals and snacks to residents, and other building amenities will include a laundry room, office space for staff, and storage spaces. We expect parking to be minimal as residents will have cars. The parking will serve as primarily staff and visitors. The building itself will be built to meet BC Housing's design guidelines, which means safety and security measures like SEPTED, surveillance systems, alarms, and fob access will be applied. And next slide. So on this slide, we've taken the image from the previous slide and converted it into a three-dimensional image. So to orient yourselves, the hydro pole and the light pole at the bottom left represent East Keith Road, and then Mountain Highway runs along the left side of the image there. So what we're looking at is we're viewing at the site from the southeast. The numerous lines that stretch along the ground of the image represent the topography. And as you can see, the site slopes steeply from the north to the south, with the lowest point of the site located in the southeast corner. So in this image, the building has various bands of color. Each color symbolizes different uses. The green or the turquoise is the supportive housing on levels 3 to 6. The yellow represents the common amenity areas. So this includes the kitchen, the dining room, the laundry, garbage, staff offices, and those are shown on levels 1, 2, and 6. And then the blue, the last one, is the complex care homes, and those are shown on the ground floor. So as you can see, we're considering a 6-story building, and they would, as mentioned previously by Tamsin, there would be a total of 65 units. 60 of those are supportive housing, and 5 units would be complex care. And the next slide. So this slide shows pictures of different building materials and ways they can be applied on a building. The materiality for the project will involve exploring traditional building materials. This includes research into Indigenous resources that have been historically used in construction, emphasizing a deep connection to the land and its resources. These materials not only carry cultural significance, but also contribute to the sustainability of the project. We will try to highlight Indigenous resources that have been historically used in construction, emphasizing a deep connection to the land. These materials would not only carry cultural significance, but also contribute to the sustainability of the project. Next slide. So we realize that not everyone may be familiar with what supportive housing is. So we'd like to share some pictures to help define what that looks like, as pictures can often be more powerful than words. So for the next 2 slides, I will share some images of existing and completed supportive housing projects. The building shown on this slide is located on 210 Gorge Road in the Brook Bay neighborhood in Victoria on the island. It's a 5-story stick frame building. It contains 51 affordable rental homes and 21 supportive housing homes, for a total of 72 homes in this building. Next slide. On this slide, we have images of the interiors of 2 different supportive housing homes. So just like every home, there are subtle differences in layout, finishes, and colors. Each supportive housing home would be furnished, contains a kitchenette, bathroom, closet, and a table and chairs. A minimum of 5% of the homes will be accessible, and all common areas will be designed to allow universal access. The image on the right is the Reederman residence on Heather Street in the Oak Ridge neighborhood in Vancouver. And the image on the left is from Peterson Place in Surrey. I also just want to take this opportunity to share some personal experience that my family and I, we live within a kilometer of a supportive housing building in our neighborhood. The same supportive housing building is also within a kilometer of an elementary school. We drive by it multiple times a day. Every morning, on my way dropping my kids off to daycare and on my way home. The building itself is contemporary, it's modern, it's well lit and safe. And we also drive by 5 other supportive housing buildings on a regular basis. So you wouldn't, from my perspective, you wouldn't know those buildings were supportive housing by looking at them. Supportive housing buildings are not designed to stand out. That is their intent. So a little off topic, but I thought it would be helpful to share and hear from someone who does live near supportive housing. And I'll pass it off to the next presenter.
Okay. Will.
Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Kirsty. So what is supportive housing? This slide will touch on the model of supportive housing. It is a model that is used across the Lower Mainland, across BC. It's what we first and foremost want to do is provide homes for people that are experiencing supportive housing. It's not a shelter, it's not a facility. First and foremost, it's homes, but with added support. So one of the key features, it is 24-hour staffed. So these are staff that are at the site that will provide support to individuals coming in. Many of the individuals will have will need assistance with various aspects of living independently, and really the key thing is to help them live successfully within supportive housing. So that may mean connecting with employment, education, helping people with the resume, connecting to local community services. So really getting people integrated into the community and help them get connected to services that is within the supportive housing site. Referral to healthcare and mental health and substance use support is within the supportive housing. Another key feature, which Vanessa touched on, these are self-contained private studio homes. So really a space and a place for people to call their own is very important. 2 meals are also provided within supportive housing, and it's residents do pay rent and program fees, and really the key is to help residents enhance their life skills, including to learn to cook and maintain their home and to live successfully within supportive housing. We've seen many examples of people moving on to more independent living. Some people may need to stay into supportive housing a little bit longer, but really it is that person-centered, tenant-centered care that supportive housing model really tries to provide. Next slide, Kirsty. So who's going to be moving into supportive housing? It's for adults, so it's for people over the age of 19. The priority is going to be for residents of the North Shore, and it's will be prioritizing people who are at risk or experiencing homelessness. So people that are in shelter or in precarious forms of housing, people that are living in their cars or living in the street, living in tents. And then it's also people that need support to maintain their housing. Selection will also be based on the supports available within the housing and really matching people, their needs to the supports that's provided in supportive housing. And how we go about selecting the tenants, it really is a community collaborative based process. We work with various partners in the community, with Vancouver Coastal Health, the local government, municipality, Indigenous groups, and community partners, and nonprofit providers who know the area well and know the individuals that are homeless within the district. We use a very thoughtful and thorough assessment process to understand people's needs and then match them up to the housing. Okay, Kirsty, next slide. Safety and security is of primary importance. All of our buildings, including this one, safety is of primary importance. So, which means a single secure entry. People will go through, a front door where it's staffed, where people are going to be checking in. Again, there's going to be 24/7 on-site staff. There's also going to be resident agreements where residents are going to be working with Luma, who's the nonprofit operator, to provide sort of that agreement as that they're going to be maintain successful tenancies within the building. There's going to be regular perimeter checks within the site with Luma staff that's going to be on site, and just ensuring that that the site is for the residents. And then also, the regular property management, maintenance and cleaning will happen. There's also going to be contact numbers shared with the neighbors. So any sort of concerns, neighbors are going to be able to contact Luma, the provider, right away. And then there's ongoing open communication with the surrounding community. So really, supportive housing is really there, for the community, for people who are experiencing homelessness, and just ensuring that the building is going to be part of the community, and so that really is the key aspect of it. I'll turn it over to Barbara, who is with Luma Native Housing.
Yeah, you should be able to. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Thank you. Luma Native Housing is the supportive housing operator. We were selected through a fair and open process that was an RFP, and we were the successful proponent that competed for the operation of this site if it were to move forward. We have about 40 years of experience operating a continuum of affordable homes, so about 1,760 units in total, but that ranges from shelter space to supportive housing, and then family housing is included in that. Our residents are not going to be required to be Indigenous, even though we're an Indigenous organization. We are open and welcome to all, but we will have some Indigenous programming and a lot of other programming as well that's not Indigenous specific available and through the housing. Do we have another slide?
There you go.
Oh. In our homes, this is an example of some of the programming that happens. This is more of the cultural component piece of the programming that happens. And so on the far left here, we have ribbon skirt making. We have what looks to be like beadwork or different cultural arts happening. And then that's at our site over up in the Heatherlands area near the hospital in Vancouver. That's a drumming welcome for the dignitaries that came to visit our site. And we often have visitors come and visit that site because it's been a life-changing component of homelessness to have this kind of program in site that offers programs and helps people transition to housing or keeps people that need to have that extra support just to maintain being housed and not to be without home because they need extra supports. We'll talk and I'll answer all of your questions, more about Luma, anything that you feel that you need to know, but specifically this housing that's proposed is going to help with giving people a space that they can leave the stresses of trying to just not only survive, but to start thriving within a space. If you have a space over your head that you can sleep and rest each night and build up your health and have food that's going to help provide for you, where you're not choosing whether you can afford rent or food or have to choose between the two. As said before, all of us are probably a step or two from being homeless or knowing somebody that's at risk of being homeless in the spaces and places that we live here in Metro Vancouver. And so it's really important for Luma to be a part of the continuum that allows people the dignity and honor to have a shelter over their head and a space where they could start working on employment skills or maintaining housing skills or how to be a better, bigger or more involved part of community in a positive way. And that includes making sure that people understand that they are of equal to everybody else that's here and that they deserve and have a right to the shelter that they're being provided and can rest assured that they'll be treated with dignity and have the space to have a place to belong and a place to have the pride of a home within. And those pieces are really important to Luma. And so we're happy to be a part of this project and also happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Our final speaker in the presentation section of tonight is David. Do you want to take it away, David? I will unmute you. Okay, you should be able to go ahead.
Thank you, Kirsty. Once again, my name is Dave. As a representative from Vancouver Coastal Health, I'd really like to talk about the complex care portion of the project that we're discussing tonight. And what I want to talk about is the what, and I want to talk about the why. So first and foremost, the what. Complex care housing is a provincial initiative. It provides support for people who have mental health and substance use concerns, alongside with other health concerns that puts people at a greater risk of homelessness. Complex care housing supports individuals who are often very under or precariously housed or are experiencing homelessness in the community or could be at risk of eviction. Complex care housing also provides an enhanced level of health and social supports that serve people right where they live. Supportive housing provides excellent services, and some of that has been discussed tonight, that meets the needs of the most vulnerable people who access this type of housing. But complex care housing will serve people who need a level of support that goes beyond what is currently available in supportive housing. So complex care housing has direct connections to treatment and specialized care, including support from nurses or peer workers, social workers, or other health professionals. And it provides enhanced wraparound supports and services depending on the individual's needs. And these could include medication-assisted treatment, overdose prevention services, psychiatrist services, primary care services, family and peer supports. For Indigenous residents, it provides ceremonial supports and connections to elders. It provides life skills support and counseling, and cooking and meal support. So now I'd like to talk about why complex care housing. From a healthcare lens and as a community, we believe that we have a responsibility to provide care to the people who most need it. Vancouver Coastal Health sees itself as an essential partner in the achievement of this purpose through our complex care housing initiative. We believe that we're creating opportunities for people to stay in their home communities and to build their support systems. And as a society, this project will prevent the marginalization or the segregation of people who have mental health and substance use issues, and instead provide them with the care and the support they need in their home community. In turn, we believe that this will bring additional stability to the community and reduce public disorder. And I'm sorry, we probably could have clicked through a couple of slides as well, but thank you very much for listening and for being with us this evening.
Thank you, David. That now brings us to the discussion portion of the evening, right on time, 7:30. A quick reminder to raise your hand. I see someone has their hand raised already, so that's great. Using the toolbar, or you can type your questions into the chat and we will read them aloud. Again, please remember to use respectful people first language and try to be as brief as possible and ask genuine questions to allow space for answers and discussion. And again, consider there may be people who have or are experiencing homelessness in the audience.